Hey everyone, what's up? DJ Sterf here, and I am in front of 800 trials of Ultimate Custom Night Rockstar Foxy at AI 20. I've had some questions from you all as to what percentage of the time Rockstar Foxy will jump scare you if you click on Mebird at AI 20. And I also had a question as to the show percentage because on some of my runs with Rockstar Foxy at AI 20, you would only see Mebird once or twice, and I was thinking, well, maybe 75% chance of not showing up because it seems to be the opposite on AI 0. So when Rockstar Foxy's off, basically, you still have about a 75% chance or so of seeing Mebird. So usually you'll see Mebird 3 times during the night, but a lot of those green runs, those 2020 green runs were wrecked because Mebird only showed up 3 times that night, and sometimes 2 instead of all 4. So I was expecting it's not 100 because I know there are instances of no-shows. But I wanted to see here at AI 20 whether it would be the flip, maybe 1 in 4 chance of showing up. So 25% is what I probably would expect. And then the jump scare was really high. I would have expected somewhere around the 90 to 95% mark because it's on a scale of 0 to 20. I don't know if there's a cap on it. That would be helpful. But if it were, say, 95%, that would kind of make sense. If it were, the AI times 5 or AI minus 1 times 5, that would make sense to me because you still can get jump scared on AI equals 0, but it's probably a low end and a high end, and the low end is a lot lower than 0 and the high end is a lot lower than 100. So anyway, we'll see. So jump scare warning on this. There are going to be about 120 jump scares. So all right, we'll go through stats and how I got through this automation, how I made it, and what I was looking for, that type of thing. There are also some silly differences between the offices as well, and that's why I did 200 trials on each one. But it was different on this, so I'll get to that. Automation. Initially, I was starting from the main menu, and I was setting all to 0, and then I was upping the AI of Rockstar Foxy to 20, and then I would click on the go button, but I needed a way to determine whether it was on the main menu or not. Well, that go button is a characteristic green and has like a characteristic really lime green, bright green color that I wanted to pick up. So I'm capturing a small rectangle on that location of the screen to find out whether that really bright lime green occurs there. All right, and interestingly, Office 3 is dark enough that it's not even close. Maybe the buttons on that arcade cabinet where Phantom Chica's on the screen, or maybe the duct openings at the top of the screen might be fairly close, but it's not precise. RGB coordinates there are 256 capable, or I should say 0 through 255. So there are 256 possible values there, and it's really picky. So if it's just a tiny bit different, it's not going to pick it up. So I was searching for exact color for a while on that button, and then it would determine, yeah, I'm on the main menu. All right. So I didn't need any leniency for that. Issue came in when I was trying to capture when you got to gameplay, when you got to Mebird, because one, if you didn't have your ventilation reset well or consistently, then there was a frame on the screen that's basically just an active object that is going to be just this big old just black frame that fades in, so the opacity changes as the ventilation goes out. So it becomes dimmer, and I'm using BitBLT to grab the image rectangle from the screen and then analyze each pixel to see is the color here. Once it is there, it exits, so it's not going through all of them a lot. It's usually one of the first pixels it gets to, so it's usually ultra fast. I mean, it's got to be nanoseconds. But so it's grabbing that rectangle, trying to find that, but you have motion with Mebird, and sometimes the vertical would be different as well. Like sometimes Mebird would be lower at one point on one appearance than another, or it would be moving up, and I don't know. So the pathing and the location weren't consistent. So what I did was I took a thin, long rectangle and was searching for one of the green colors on Mebird's neck. Ooh, we got another Office 4 appearance up top. Another interesting stat that I may want to get at some point is whether the Office, how often the Office changes even if you have Office 1 selected. Because I wanted Office 1, but now it's Office 4 up there. I know there's a probability of getting a different Office randomly, but not by choice. I don't know why that is. I think it was supposed to be an Easter egg or whatever, but it's something that if I have the office selected, I didn't really want. Okay, so anyway, so main menu, you find that green go button, and then I was having problems with Dee Dee showing up and then adding in Golden Freddy or Mangle, and then you'd have just a random Golden Freddy jump scare, and it would ruin the whole thing. Because, like, you click on Mebird, but by that point, you know, you just reset the ventilation, you click on Mebird, and then you get a Golden Freddy jump scare instead of seeing whether it was going to be a friendly or jump scare encounter. So that ruined that. So what I did was I changed out the set all to 0. I took that out. I just set Rockstar Foxy to whatever AI I want, and then I went to the Powerups menu. So I had to click on the Powerups menu, and this is just, you know, Windows Input Simulator. It's a NuGet package for Visual Studio 2019, and it's pretty simple to use. It's really reliable as well. But it would click on the Powerups menu, and then it would go and select Dee Dee Repel if there was no active text, so it wouldn't toggle it off if you had the option. And then it would click the OK button of that Powerups menu, and then it would click Go. All right, and that's basically how it got out of the main menu. If it found that green tutorial screen button or whatever, it would also click there, and then it would start the timer basically, so like live time. And based on that, I needed a ventilation reset because I didn't want that dim effect to alter the pixels on the screen, and I wanted like a pure color capture and all that. So I had the ventilation reset at 22, 52, 122, 152, all that. So basically at the 1 minute mark, 2 minute mark, 3 minute mark, and 4 minute mark, you would have complete bright color. You wouldn't have the dim effect or anything, and you wouldn't run out of ventilation. I also had the temperature continue to be low. I could have had a 1 press to save power, but I didn't really need to. So you get to hear the fan noises, which is better white noise, I think, than the power generator. But you didn't really need to use that. Like you get through the night with 1 power usage, and even with ventilation resets and all that. I mean, that's how most people get through 50/20 as well, is just 1 block of power usage normal, but with a power generator a lot of the time. What else about it? So ventilation resets at 22 and 52, and then you'd have full color, and then you would detect via a long rectangle whether Mebird's green feather showed up. The shading on the feathers is a little bit different, and there's motion, so you have to be quick with it. So instead of polling every 1 second during the normal parts of the night, because you didn't really have much action, I guess I could have waited to minimize memory as well. But then, like during the critical parts, I sped it up to 10 times a second, so 100 millisecond polling interval. And then you would just, you know, grab rectangle, find all these, and see like where you are and who's there. So you could find Mebird really quickly and reliably. And then after Rockstar Foxy shows up, you can find Rockstar Foxy with a color on his fur near the top of his head. And then yeah, you find the panel color. Interestingly, the panel color is different on Office 2. It's much more blue. So instead of picking the exact color, I started having some leniency allowance. And for some of these, I think I still had 0. Like that main menu button, it's 0. But with Mebird, since there's motion, and you could have different parts of Mebird in that long rectangle, because you don't want to pick up the whole screen, otherwise you're just going to eat up RAM like crazy. If you're picking 10 per second and a big... I'm running 4K resolution, so that hurts that too. But anyway, yeah, picking up those values, those colors, all that, there was a little bit of leniency I added in, and especially with the blue panel on Office 2. So anytime you have a friendly +1 power panel showing up, yeah, it's going to search for a bluer color than what you would be used to with the other offices. And I don't know why that is necessarily. I don't know why the Office 3 doesn't have a greener panel or something like that. Like, or you know, maybe it may be a lighter gray on Office 4, or maybe a little more orangish on Office 1 than what it is, or something. But it's different on Office 2 for sure. I ran some trials with Office 2 as it was with the other 3. The other 3 ran fine, but then Office 2 was coming up with no friendly appearances. and I was looking through the takes, and I'm like, huh, it didn't pick up Rockstar Foxy at all, and Rockstar Foxy would just stand there the whole night because you didn't do anything. And Mebird won't show up if Rockstar Foxy is standing there, so like you can't have 2 appearances of Rockstar Foxy. And maybe I could try that a little bit more with AI 0, because there's much more common Mebird appearances and all that. But anyway, all of this was done with, I mean, BitBLT has been around since like Windows 95. Like, good grief, that's really, really long ago. Man, that brings me way back. I used to program just for fun, and taught myself when I was like 10, and I guess nowadays that isn't really that impressive, but for back then, you know, I started off with a 640 by 480 compact Presario, and it had 40 megabytes on its hard drive. Like, it was a 40 megabyte hard drive running Windows 3.1, 386 processor. I think it was a 66 megahertz, and it was crazy because that was the higher end. 50 megahertz was the lower end, and I had a 66 megahertz processor. That was crazy. It had a floppy disk drive, 3.5 inch, and it had a CD-ROM drive. And that was my first intro to programming. I guess there was one exception to that, and I didn't really pick it up when I was like maybe 5, when I had a Commodore 64. You know, my dad was always into, he was an analytical chemist, but he was always dealing with computers and the latest computing equipment, and he saw the Commodore 64 and was like, I think Sterling might like that. So he got me a Commodore 64 when I was like really, really little. And so we had a Commodore 64. I played mostly games on it, mostly basketball. And it had the 5, what was it, was it 5 1/4? Was it? Yeah, I think it was 5 1/4 inch, the floppy disks and all that. And man, that brings me way back. But I played Jeopardy all the time on that, and Wheel of Fortune less, but especially Jeopardy, and was Slam Dunk, I think, was the game. Those were the jam back then, like, good grief. But anyway, my dad did get me some kind of programming software back then, and it didn't really click at all. Like, I just wanted to play basketball. So I think that changed when we got the compact Presario, and it had QBasic on it. And I don't know, I just stumbled on it. Like, I don't even remember how. I think I just looked like a help command to see like all possible commands, and I typed in QBasic, and I'm like, oh, this is programming. And I started looking through the help file and looking through examples and just tinkering and figuring out what each thing did. So I didn't have any classes until like late in high school. Like, I had a typing class in 6th grade, and I already knew how to type. Like, I don't know, that was an easy course. It was annoying too, because I don't know, there was something that disabled backspace, and so you weren't supposed to have any corrections, all right? But all the students were like using like F10 or something that turned on the corrections allowed, and they'd just be backspacing like crazy. So I don't know. I think I was one of the few who did all that stuff honestly and got really good at typing. But anyway, we all make mistakes, but that course especially, it was trying to get you during the testing especially not to make any corrections. So it tested your accuracy and your speed, so your proficiency, and showing how much you actually put into that. But anyway, back to QBasic. So I just messed around with stuff, and I used to make just a ton of video games and smaller games, and really full-fledged, like, I'm pretty good games. Like, I had CDs that I sold. So here was one of them. That's Insanity. Way back, 1998. But I think I did break the $1,000 mark. It was just a CD with a printed label that had a sticky. I might not even have. I think I used double stick tape on a lot of those too. Like, I just made sure it was really flush so it wouldn't get caught up in a CD-ROM drive. But man, I think that had somewhere around the 40 to 50 of my games mark around that time. But it was just something fun that I did. I made another game kind of to get myself out of a depressive funk back in 2009 maybe. But it was actually really therapeutic. And so it's a skill that has been neat and therapeutic as well as helpful. It's helped my efficiency at work big time, because stuff for functional, if I automate my functional tests and then I go to regression And then I'm like, well, I just changed the environment with one change of whatever, and then just run them all. You've just taken 3 weeks of work or longer and condensed that into, say, like 30 minutes or less. And so in terms of programming and automation, that's been something extremely useful for me, and it's something that's been really fun for me to do. It's fun to think about how to set something up from scratch, think about how to run it and how you can get through things meaningfully. Because, for example, this one right here, this automation, I could have detected sound levels, I could have tried to find a sound signature or that type of thing, but that requires different libraries. I don't know. That's maybe a little bit too complicated. Plus, you could have other sound effects at the same time. If I was resetting ventilation at a specific time, and it had sound levels way high, then it might, false flag something as an occurrence of Mebird showing up or something like that. All right, so stuff like that can happen. Or say a mouse click doesn't have enough latency. You could have some stuff erroring out, that type of thing. But that's a little bit of trial and error. Part of it's the fun of seeing it work, because I just left this stuff overnight and this is running pretty smooth. So I'm liking this pretty well. Interestingly, if you note the show percentage right now, let's look at the stats a little bit. If you look right now, the show percentage is actually lower than it was a little bit ago. So you have 22.47. You're going to have about 26 after this one, 2674. 17.24 on the Office 3, 2184 on Office 4. And actually, that's going to go up a little bit here as I'm talking. So it's looking like it's going to converge to about 25%. You're going to see that Office 3 go up a little bit. But that's interesting that it was 1705. That's quite low. All right, now it's back up to 1798. Jumpscare percentage. You see one with 61.9, one with 70.83, one with 75, and one with 65. So you could say, well, that could be 70%. It could be 2 out of 3. So it could be 66.67%. It could be something in that ballpark, but it's looking pretty good for statistical convergence. Interestingly, you're not going to have, so 2 sets of samples from the same data set, I guess, or I guess, foci. The number of appearances are going to have a lot more trials than the number of possible jump scares or friendlies. All right, so right now you have 95 trials and 95 shows or no shows, but you only have 23 jump scares or friendlies in Office 1. So the sample size, I wanted to have at least 200, because if we had 25% show appearance, you would have 50 from each office, and then you could get data based on that, and that would be reasonable. So you'd have 200 shots at a jump scare or a friendly. But the more samples you have in something with a true random in a full population, the more occurrences you have, the more trials you run, the better you're going to have your data really locked in, I guess. You get what I'm saying? Like, if the sample size is about like 32, you usually can get a pretty good estimate and see kind of a plus or minus. Okay, this is a pretty good estimate. This seems to be where the trends are going. You have to make sure that it's a true random. Like, for example, if you're doing a political poll and you're outside of the DNC or the RNC, either one, you're going to get very biased data either way. So you want a random, all right? You want to stratify based on different factors. You could do demographics, you could do location, you could do region, like all sorts of stuff. But with this, it's a proportion of a population. And so the more trials you have, and here with the offices, they're going to converge to about the same value. So that's a spoiler on that. All the offices seem to have about the same value, and the jump scare rate is going to converge to about a 2 out of 3. And the no-show is going to converge to about a 25%. So you have a 1 in 4 and a 2 out of 3. So we could go through different statistical scenarios there. And let me show you the actual data from the Excel spreadsheet, and hopefully this won't be too big. Well, yeah, this will actually be huge. This will actually be really huge. All right, so I'm going to make sure the transparency is low enough so you can hopefully see through. All right, that good, hopefully. So Rockstar Foxy at AI 20, if you look at the final results here, you have several, several below even 60%. And you could say, well, it could be 60%. It could be, but it looks like it's going to be closer to 2 out of 3. Overall percentage was 65.38% of the time you get a jump scare from Rockstar Foxy on AI 20. So if you had, say, 100,000 trials of just this, I'm pretty sure this would converge to right about 66.67%. If you have a data sample of 30, you can have a pretty good gauge of that if it's a pure random, but the more you have, the better. In this case, we had 234, so occurrences of Mebird showing up, and the show percentage was interesting there too. We had 1,000 trials, and the show percentage was 23.40%. The high was 26. I ran a few other, like the previous runs with the faulty panel from Office 2. That actually had a few with jump scares at like 74, and then a few with a show percentage at like 28. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be a 25, and that this one's going to be a 67 or 66.67, so 2 out of 3. So with Mebird, let's go through some stats here, and so the odds of Mebird appearances. All right, 0. You have basically no shows, so 0.75, which is a 75% of Mebird not showing at AI 20, times 4. So you have 4 slots, right? You have 1 minute in, 2 minutes in, 3 minutes in, 4 minutes in. You have 4 opportunities, and each one is a no-show, so 75% each time. What is that? 31.64% chance of not seeing Mebird at all. What about 1? All right, well, this gets tricky because if we're doing this based on combinatorics here, which we should be instead of permutation, let's do that. So you have one of those slots, so you have 4 slots, can be a show, which is a 0.25, all right? But then you multiply it by 0.75, 0.75, 0.75, because the other 3 are no-shows. But there are 4 slots to where that can occur, so you're going to multiply that by 4. 42.19% chance of getting Mebird once at AI 20, and that totally lines up with my experience. Like this is like obviously I was expecting this data, but this is what we're getting here. What about 2? 2 is even trickier because you have 0.25 times 0.25 times 0.75 times 0.75, but you can have slots 1 and 2. You can have slots 1 and 3, 1 and 4. 2 and 3, 2 and 4, or 3 and 4. So you're going to multiply it by 6. 21.09%. I'll make sure this ends up as 100%. If not, then I've done something wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is right. 21% chance of getting 2 Mebird appearances. And now here's where things get silly, all right? So if you're trying to get an ultra green run with 4 favorable Mebird appearances at AI 20, good luck. All right, so here we go. 0.3, we have 0.25 times 0.25 times 0.25 times 0.75, but the slots you can have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, and 2, 3, 4, right? 2. And make sure that's right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 4. Now I need to put an equal up front. 4.69% chance of 3 Mebird appearances, all right? And at 4, this is just Mebird appearances, all right? We'll get to favorable Mebird appearances as well. 4 would be just 0.25 to the 4th power, 0.39% chance. So 1 in every about 255 appearances. Let's see, 1 over 255. Hey, you would have a 4x Mebird showing on AI 20. It's not likely to happen regularly. Like, I remember how rare it was to get even 3. Like, even 2 was not too common, but 3 was very rare. That's not common either. Okay, what about favorable? Favorable Mebird appearances. Let's just copy. Let's copy these, and then change the font size so it at least shows up. Favorable Mebird appearances, you're going to multiply all this by 2 out of 3. Or what should I say? No, 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3. It's going to be a third. It's going to be a third. Oh my goodness, that's nuts. 10.55% chance. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. Never mind. Ignore that. You can't have 0 appearances and then... Alright, anyway. So, alright. Here we go. Let's do real stats here. Alright, here we go. So the chance of Mebird showing up once with favorable. Let's just do 1/3. 14% chance. So 1 out of 7 times you can get... that's about right. That's crazy. That's crazy. And this one's gonna be even crazier. This one's gonna be even crazier. Look at this. So you're gonna do this times 1/3 times 1/3 because you have 2 occurrences of a favorable Mebird showing, which is 1/3 each. 2% chance. Wow. All right, and then what about 3? Equals this times 1/3. It's gonna be 1/27. 0.17% chance of having 3 favorable Mebird appearances showing up plus favorable at AI 20, and then this one's going to be ridiculously low. So let's do this times, it's going to be 1/81 because it's 3 to the 4th. Woo! How low can you go? Wow, that is really low. Wow. Wow. 1 divided by this. 1 in every 20,736 attempts, you'll have 4 Mebird appearances, all being friendly at AI 20. That's not worth it. All right, like that's not worth it. That's suspicious if that ever happens. It's like, I don't know. It's the same thing with statistics. It's always possible, but whether it's likely or probable or not, that's the thing. So, anyway, that's your statistics journey today. My goodness. That was kind of fun. What about a confidence interval? Let's go through a confidence interval, all right? Chrome. Here. Hopefully you can see this. Let's actually let's add some transparency to this. Add a chroma key filter which has opacity. Okay. Let's hide Excel for now, and here. Hopefully you can still see. So our sample size. So just for the show, all right. We had 1,000 and we had 234 actually show up. Let's get a 99% confidence interval. That's gonna be fairly wide. All right. So if you can see here, the let me highlight it. Hopefully you can see it a little bit better. Proportion of positive results, of course, 23.4%, 0.234. All right. Lower bound of the range of what it could be, or what it likely could be. So we're 99% confident it's probably within 0.20 and 0.2004 and 0.2702. And if you go to just a normal approximation, it goes 0.1995 through 0.2685. You notice that also includes 0.25, and it's not on the outside of the range. I really think that's where it's going to go. And looking at the other sample sets that I had before, that I had to throw out with because of the panel on Office 2, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's going to be 0.25. But let's look at the other one as well, because we had 234 as the N, and we had 158 jump scares. Let me double check that. 153. Glad I checked. 153. All right, so we have 65.38%, but the lower bound could be 0.5690 or and the upper bound 0.7322. So that range probably holds that value pretty confidently, and 0.67 is quite toward the middle of that range, of course. It's near 0.6538 anyway. I really think it's a 2 out of 3. I don't think it's 70%. I think it's probably easier and more parsimonious to say that Scott would have just said, well, 1 out of every 4, 1 out of every 4, 2 out of every 3, and to have a scale based on that, and maybe to cap it at 2 out of 3. So anyway, I can run this same thing for different AI levels, and I'll plan to do that. But it's just this was pretty interesting to do for me. So I don't know. I don't see this as a burden to do. I just found this is kind of fun to make the automation and to get a value that might be helpful as well. Some of the other things I might check out is some of the things I might check out are the probability of DD appearing. DD ruined so many of those runs initially when I didn't have DD repel. Another thing too, I should mention, I had a file copy at the start of every run as well. I copied over a file just as a save with 9 DD repels, and I would just copy it over every time the night started. So every like 4 or 5 minutes or so, there would be a file copy that would be done. Or if there were a jump scare, it'd be like 1 minute and 20 seconds or something like that. But that copied it over so that I never ran out of DD repels for this automation, so that DD wouldn't interfere as a confounding factor. Because I don't know if Mebird or Rockstar Foxy interact with other animatronics in any way. I was wondering about Candy Cadet, and I don't think there's an interaction there. And also a new challenger appeared when that dialogue appears. But I saw the same behavior with Mebird, with Candy Cadet blabbing on about random stuff, and offering pithy epithets every blue moon and near the top of every minute, as well as the challenge. A new challenger has appeared, dialogue appearing, and then Mebird also showing up as well with about the same proportion. So I'm pretty sure there aren't confounding things with that, and there might not be any confounding things with other animatronics. I just don't fully know, because there's so many animatronics in this, and there can be conflicting, like if one event is above another and then preempts or prevents or alters some other alterable value that another anything has, another active object has, or whatever. Because Scott likes using those alterable values as part of the active objects. But I don't know if there is any interaction there, but I just didn't want any confounding factors there. Which is interesting too, because if you run this with a bunch of animatronics, maybe the non-threatening ones or something, you could run the same experiment and see if you get about the same results. Because if, running with, say, 30 animatronics that aren't going to kill you, and still seeing the same percentages, that would be at least telling to say, okay, there probably aren't, at least with the ones we can safely test, there aren't confounding animatronics in the proportion of Mebird appearances, which would be neat. I just don't know, because you think of other Five Nights at Freddy's games, Five Nights at Freddy's 1, Chica takes priority over Bonnie and Foxy. Freddy in the office doesn't matter. But if you have Foxy, Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy queued in the office, and you go to the cameras, and you have Foxy run at you, you don't see Foxy. So you hear the footsteps, and then you'll hear the jump scare, but you'll see Chica. So there are, ooh, hey, we got a, ooh, that's so, okay, that's neat. Office 3 has a bad trial there, but it ended. What happened there? Huh. Weird. It didn't do the ventilation reset right. That's one attempt out of probably 700 so far that I've at least seen with that happen. That's super interesting. Okay, so it's not foolproof. I got to go through and maybe send another click on the ventilation just to be safe. Maybe that would help. Just add a little bit of redundancy. Anyway, but pretty nice automation. So we're looking at 2 out of 3 jump scare if you click Mebird, and 25% chance of Mebird showing up at AI 20 at all on the top of every minute. Not the AM, but the top of every minute. I don't know why Scott did it on every minute, but he did. So I don't know if that's intentional or not. Anyway, maybe too many things happening at 1 and 2 AM things. 1, 2, and 3 AM maybe. But anyway, Hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked the video, you can like, comment, subscribe. Say what your favorite things were about the video. And I don't even know. But anyway, I'll post the Excel.
You win some, you lose some.
And let's fill the screen here. Transform.
You play with fire.
Fit the screen. And then eventually VLC. All right, that's it. Cool. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and those are the stats. Let me brighten it up for you a little bit. There you go. And hopefully that helps. So, peace. There, you can actually see me. Let me move this. No, that's not it. Excel. I'm gonna move it over here. Yeah, all right, cool. Now I can see myself. Wow, last seconds of the video. So I'm thinking if there's anything else I left out. I think I've covered pretty much everything. Automation is cool, programming's cool. You can do a lot of really useful stuff. So I don't have this decompiled. I'm not going to decompile it. I don't think people are decompiling this anyway these days. So anyway, hope that was interesting. Peace. God bless you. Have a great day. And be careful with clicking on green birds that fly across your screen. All right. That's about it. All right. Peace. God bless. Have a great day.
Go. Now, oh my goodness, this would be nice.